This is TWiT.
Google, like many other tech companies, is cutting its workforce. 12,000 jobs slashed. The largest layoff, according to Ron Amadio at Ars Technica, in the company's history. 12,000 jobs, which is, I mean, that's a lot of people. Yeah. I don't know how many people are employed by Alphabet in sum or in total, but I imagine this is a small percentage of it, but still 12,000 jobs is a lot. Many of those jobs coming from, or at least a large percentage coming from Area 120, which we've talked about on the show many times. That's their kind of like experimental incubator where they play around with new app ideas and you know, lots of weird, funky things. In fact, I think J.R. Raphael had a tip or two in the last couple of months from the Area 120 incubator project. So Stack, Tables, ThreadByte, Checks, a bunch of apps that, you know, some of them you may not have ever heard of. So no surprise that they're kind of canceling out a lot of those projects. Some of them that you heard. I know we've talked about Stack on this show from time to time. Also, Fuchsia OS team got hit, losing 16% of its team. Fuchsia's always been this kind of like question mark thing year after year after year. We're like, wait a minute, why did Google create this again? Was it to replace Android? That may have been in the beginning kind of the discussion, but that's obviously not what their plan is, or at least it hasn't come to fruition yet. They're starting to implement and integrate the OS into some of their products that they're shipping and everything, but it's still very kind of curious as far as what that actually is. So what does a 16% hit actually mean for Fuchsia? Time will tell. Yeah.
Did you, I heard one thing, and I'll share it, Burke. It's in the, I threw it in our chat and Slack. It was basically, at least in Google New York City, people were finding out based on whether or not their key card worked or not. Oh, that morning. So the emails went out at 7. The emails went out at 7 a.m. But if you didn't check your work email until you got to the office,
oh my goodness,
if you did it flashed green or flashed red, like that was like a real thing that was happening. So that's a bummer.
That's not
that is a bummer.
Yep. But you know, I reached out to, I have some friends at Google and that sort of thing, and like it did the like at like 11 a.m. like, are you okay? Just to see if there's a bounce back, and luckily folks, you know, YouTube wasn't impacted, so folks I know at YouTube and stuff like that seem to be okay. But I mean, a layoff is never easy. It's never fun. A layoff of this size is just demoralizing. It's just, and like what's interesting also is I saw another article that was talking about the reaction of Googlers inside, where there was a lot of, you know, like internal conversation and like, you know, and their chat, you know, things and things like that. And people were like, well, what was the decision factor? Who decided who went and who cut? Like Googlers were asking for answers and like calling out Sundar and calling out the other senior management who were like saying this is never hard. And they were like wanted, you know, like some conversation about, you know, who got laid off and why and what the business justifications were. Whether or not they were provided those, I doubt it because of the legalities of it. But that conversation was indeed happening. So, yeah.
Well, that's disappointing, and I'm sorry to anyone impacted by these layoffs. I mean, it's a bummer. Yeah, and it's widespread right now. The world is changing rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it's hard to keep up. That's why Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, talk with the people making and breaking the tech news on Tech News Weekly every Thursday. They know these stories better than anyone, so why not get them to talk about it in their own words? Subscribe to Tech News Weekly, and you won't miss a beat every Thursday at twit.tv.